The story opens on May 19, 2025. In a desolate, overgrown area, a dilapidated building stands under a dark, gloomy sky. Inside, a man is tied to a chair, his face bruised and streaked with tears. A soldier in full tactical gear looms over him, holding a pistol. The captive stammers in terror, asking what the soldier is doing. His face contorts in horrified recognition. The soldier coldly raises the pistol and aims it at the captive's head. The captive lets out a final, desperate scream. With a brutal slash, a knife severs the captive's hand in a spray of blood. The man can only scream in agony, staring at his maimed wrist. The interrogator, Landon, looks down at him with utter contempt, calling him a worthless wretch. Landon, the captain of the Dragon Plan Special Forces, glares at the prisoner. He offers a quick death in exchange for a confession. Suddenly, another soldier places a hand on Landon's shoulder, telling him to stop. The subordinate reminds his captain that this kind of interrogation is a violation. Landon explodes in rage, screaming to hell with the rules. He grabs his comrade by the vest, his face twisted in fury. He furiously demands to know how many of their brothers have already died. Landon, seething with rage, declares that their target is hiding in this building. He grits his teeth, vowing, "I must tear him apart today." He grabs a man by the hair, demanding the code for the top floor and promising a quick death in return. The terrified man simply cries, remaining silent. Sometime later, Landon and his subordinate stand before a massive wooden door, a body lying on the floor nearby. The soldier inputs a code into the wall panel. Landon gives the order, "Cover me." He then unleashes a powerful kick, completely shattering the heavy door. Inside, a man in a white suit watches their arrival on a wall of security monitors. He calmly swirls a drink and says, "Captain Landon, you finally arrived." Ch.1 sits calmly in a lavish chair, swirling a glass of wine. "You made me wait," he says with a condescending smirk. Landon scoffs, his face contorted in a furious sneer. "Ch.1, you want to see me 'cause you're tired of living?" he snarls. A menacing red aura erupts around Landon as his eyes glow with murderous intent. He stalks forward, vowing, "I said I would catch you with my own hands. Then I'll tear you apart and feed you to the dogs." Ch.1's expression remains completely unfazed by the threat. Suddenly, he lets out a small laugh. He covers his mouth, barely stifling his amusement as he asks, "Captain Landon, you think you've got me cornered?" Enraged at being mocked, Landon bellows, "What are you laughing at?" Captain Landon, yelling at Chase, "Our backup will be here soon, you're not escaping." Ch.1's smile vanishes instantly. He looks Landon dead in the eye and states coldly, "Captain Landon, you're wrong." With a condescending look, Ch.1 calmly states, "There won't be any backup." Suddenly, the sharp tack of a gun cocking cuts through the tension. Landon whirls around in shock. His own subordinate is standing behind him, a pistol aimed squarely at his head. "Sorry, Captain," the traitor says without a hint of remorse. The full weight of the betrayal hits Landon, his face a mask of disbelief and fury. Ch.1 looks on with amusement, mocking Landon for his simple-minded approach. "Someone like you, all brawn and no brains, probably doesn't understand the concept of the supreme military strategy is to defeat the enemy without fighting." He then delivers the final verdict, "But you'll have plenty of time to think about it in your next life." The subordinate presses the gun firmly against Landon's head. Consumed by rage, Landon roars, "Bastard!" In a final desperate surge of adrenaline, he lunges, grabbing the gun from his former ally. "You won't get away with it," he screams, wrestling for control of the weapon. His eyes burn with defiant fury as he fights for his life. He plummets into darkness, his consciousness fading. As his life flashes before his eyes, the horrifying truth dawns on him. Everything was a trap from the very beginning. A trap that sealed the fate of his entire Dragon Plan team. He remembers the sinister, smiling face of Ch.1 standing with the traitor. Landon is consumed by a burning regret, wishing he'd put a bullet in the bastard's head himself. He clenches his fist in fury. He spent his entire life fighting evil, using every means necessary, but he never saw the true evil that was right beside him all along. As darkness finally closes in, Landon's last thought is a desperate plea. If only he could do it all over again. Consumed by pure hatred, a demonic silhouette of Landon's rage forms in the darkness. His final thought is a venomous promise: "I will kill that son of a bitch." As his life fades, Landon lies bleeding out, scoffing at the impossible notion of a second chance. Suddenly, a voice pierces the void, calling out to him. A figure appears in his vision, waving and asking if he's okay. A classmate with a bowl cut and glasses looks down at him with a worried expression. Landon's eyes snap open, now a startling, intense red. The classmate recoils in shock. He quickly explains he wasn't being a pervert, but was just concerned because Landon had been standing completely still for a creepily long time. Landon stares blankly as the student with glasses asks if he's a student too. The student seems confused by Landon's question, confirming that of course he is. Landon's demeanor shifts violently as he grabs the student, demanding to know why a school is in a criminal hideout. The terrified student stammers that he doesn't know what Landon is talking about. This is just a school. Still gripping the boy, Landon frantically asks for the current year and date. The student nervously tells him it's April 13th, 2015. His friends, watching from the background, suggest that Landon should probably see the school counselor. As they walk away, they mutter that he's a complete nutcase. Landon is left alone, the year 2015 echoing in his mind. He stumbles towards the sink, staring at his younger self in the reflection. The impossible realization dawns on him. He's been reborn. He's been sent back 10 years into the past. Overwhelmed and in disbelief, Landon slaps himself hard across the face to see if he's dreaming. The pain from the slap snaps Landon back to the moment of his death. He remembers lying on the floor, bleeding, as the two men who betrayed him stood over him. With a grim smile, he realizes that since he's alive again, he has a score to settle. He clenches his fist, vowing that this time, those bastards will be the ones to die. As he stands in the bathroom, a group of girls walks by, chattering about a handsome guy. The girl with purple hair notices Landon's intense gaze and stops, confused. Landon, however, is simply staring at his reflection, still processing his return to the past. His staring doesn't go unnoticed, as one of the girls angrily confronts him, calling him a creepy guy. They quickly clarify that he is absolutely not the one they were calling hot. As they walk off, they mutter in disgust about him having a nosebleed outside the bathroom. Landon is left alone again, the date solidifying in his mind. April 13th. Landon's mind flashes to a gruesome scene on a tiled floor, showing a blood-splattered slipper with a heart on it. He remembers that something terrible is supposed to happen on this very day. The memory solidifies, revealing the lifeless body of the purple-haired girl he just saw in the hallway, lying in a pool of her own blood. The scene is marked off with "Caution, keep out" tape. Back in the present, Landon's eyes glow a menacing red as a fiery aura erupts around him. He declares that he is rewriting his life. With grim determination, he realizes this moment is where it all begins. Next day. In a classroom, Landon overhears two girls talking about thugs at the school gate. Landon knocks on the door. He asks to come in for water, explaining that the main academic building's supply is out again. Inside, the protagonist is with two female classmates who are wrapped in towels. One of the girls warns him not to look around too much. He coolly dismisses her as he turns to fill his own large water bottle. As the water fills, the protagonist's expression darkens. He's struck by a memory, recalling a significant event that happened in this very room. Meanwhile, other girls are heard waiting outside, complaining about how long their friend is taking in the shower. Landon's eyes narrow as a memory surfaces. He glances at his watch, which reads 1:15 p.m. His thoughts drift to the nature of coincidence and cowardice. Suddenly, a girl's scream rips through the air, accusing a pervert of peeking. A man in a brown sweater is seen fleeing the scene. Landon's eyes snap wide with shocking realization. He remembers this exact event. He watches the man running away, the time flashing in his mind, 1:15 p.m. The memory becomes clearer, the man in the brown sweater rushing past him in a blur. A dark, intense grin spreads across the Landon's face. He remembers this as the single moment that decided his entire fate. The date flashes in his mind, April 12, 2015. Landon's mind flashes back to the grim consequences of that day. Police cars surround the school building, which is cordoned off with police tape. A rape case had occurred. He remembers the beginning of the incident. A peeping Tom, looking panicked, is discovered by screaming female students in the bathhouse. He realizes this was his one chance to prevent the tragedy. The peeping Tom's face, however, is a mask of crazed desperation as he tries to escape. But Landon recalls his own state at that critical moment. He was completely frozen. He remembers collapsing into a corner, hugging his knees, utterly consumed by fear. A broken bottle lies on the floor next to him as he trembles, his eyes wide with terror. The peeping Tom used that moment to flee into the girls' bathroom. Inside, a lone, blood-splattered sandal on the floor tells the story of the horror that unfolded. The man had assaulted a girl who was showering. Later, the girl who was attacked transferred schools and was never heard from again. While everyone else seemed to forget, the incident became the Landon's inner demon. The guilt and trauma haunted him so much that in the end, he couldn't even graduate. Instead of staying in a place full of painful memories, he makes a drastic choice. He drops out of school and joins the army. He doesn't stop there, pushing himself to join the elite special forces. There, he unleashes all the pent-up rage from his past trauma. He becomes a whirlwind of violence on the battlefield, cutting down his foes without hesitation. His brutal methods get him in constant trouble, and he's repeatedly warned for violating discipline. But the anger burning inside him, born from that day at school, can't be extinguished. His mind still struggles to understand the injustice he witnessed. He can't comprehend how the beasts who destroy lives can be so brazen. He channels this burning question into his missions, becoming increasingly ruthless. Gradually, his ferocity and solitary nature earn him a reputation. He becomes known as the Lone Wolf. Back to reality. In the middle of the chaos, the Landon stands calmly observing the scene unfold. He thinks to himself that logically, after his rebirth, he should be going after Chen Xiao and smash his dog head. Criminal, cornered and frantic, brandishes a knife to keep people away. But Landon has a different plan in mind before he deals with Chen Xiao. He's determined to make up for some of the regrets from his past life. He grabs a water bottle, deciding that the best way to deal with scum is to fight fire with fire. With a cold look, he vows that this time he won't let them get away with it. He shouts for everyone to clear a path. With a furious expression, he swings the heavy water bottle with all his might. He brings it down with a devastating, bone-crushing impact. Water bottle's nozzle impales the floor right beside the thug's head, splashing its contents everywhere. He lets out a piercing scream, clutching his shoulder in agony. Stumbling to his feet, he roars, "Who was it? I'm going to kill you!" But his threat is cut short as his expression shifts to one of pure confusion. Reflected in his eye, he sees the Landon soaring through the air towards him. Before he can react, the Landon delivers a devastating kick right to his head. The two women watch in stunned silence. The sheer force of the impact sends the thug flying backwards. He crashes hard against the far wall. Amazingly, the thug isn't completely knocked out. He groans, struggling back onto his knees, still clutching his knife. Landon is shocked, realizing the thug managed to endure his powerful attack. Landon stands over the kneeling thug, who is still reeling from the last attack. Looking down, Landon resolves, "I need to train harder from now on." He calmly loosens his tie, his expression hardening with determination. The thug, tears streaming down his face, glares up with pure malice. He suddenly pulls out another knife, snarling, "You little brat!" With a furious roar, he lunges forward, screaming, "Die!" In a flash, Landon sidesteps the desperate attack. The thug is left completely bewildered as his strike hits nothing but air. Before he can even process what happened, Landon grabs his wrist with incredible speed. With a sharp crack, the knife blade shatters against the Landon's grip.
With the thug's weapon shattered, Landon immediately counters with a vicious kick to the head. He follows up with a merciless barrage of strikes, a blur of red and black that overwhelms his opponent. The thug's eyes roll back into his head as he's brutally beaten down. His body crashes onto the tiled floor, completely incapacitated. Standing over the defeated man, Landon clutches his arm and lets out a pained groan. Ugh. Despite being on the ground, the thug glares up with pure hatred. He spits out a final curse, "Bastard!" The insult flips a switch inside Landon. His eyes begin to glow with a furious and pure rage takes over. Landon, consumed by rage, unleashes a merciless beatdown on the thug. He continues the brutal assault, showing no signs of stopping. Landon grabs the man by the hair, looking at his bloodied face with pure disgust. He thinks to himself that seeing this man's face will always make him sick. Suddenly, a woman's voice calls out to him. Classmate." She warns him, "If you keep hitting him, you'll kill him." Landon freezes, turning to look at the purple-haired woman. A flash of recognition hits him as he stares at her. His mind races. That's right, it's her. He recalls her previous actions, thinking, even though you acted bravely.
A woman with purple hair sits on the floor, clutching a white towel around her body. She looks up at the man standing over her, her face flushed and sweating. "Could you please not stare at me like that?" she says. "It's a bit embarrassing." Landon simply looks down at her, his expression unreadable. The scene opens with the flashing red and blue lights of a police car. Inside a building, Landon is surrounded by officers, his hands cuffed behind his back. He calmly asks an officer if he can go to the bathroom. Another cop immediately shouts at him to be quiet. However, a senior officer observes Landon with a thoughtful gaze, calling him a little student. He remarks that Landon's joint locking technique was surprisingly professional. Looking at criminal's cuffed hands, the officer asks him directly, "Have you trained?" Landon simply stares back. Landon remains silent for a moment, a thoughtful expression on his face. He calmly replies, "I learned it from TV, just flashy moves." The officer's eyes narrow with suspicion, unconvinced by the simple explanation. "Ordinary scouts don't even learn skills like that," he presses. "They teach this on TV?" To test Landon further, the officer demonstrates a complex hold. "Then, what about this kind of situation?" he challenges. "Would TV teach you that too?" Landon's demeanor shifts, his face hardening as he observes the move. In a flash, he intercepts the officer's arm, his grip firm and precise. A dangerous red light flares to life in Landon's eye, crackling with raw power. "Officer," he begins, his voice low and menacing. Landon tightens his grip, his voice low and threatening. "Choking a civilian like that isn't really appropriate, is it?" The officer freezes, overwhelmed by the intense, murderous aura pouring off the young man. He stares at Landon, wondering who this kid could possibly be. Suddenly, a beautiful woman with purple hair gently pulls on the officer's arm. She pleads with him, "Officer, don't make things hard for him. I can testify, that thug pulled a knife first." Landon looks over at his unexpected defender. The woman gives him a sly wink. Officer continuing, Even so, you still can't beat someone half to death." Landon remains silent. Landon stares, a bead of sweat on his face as he processes the woman's unexpected help. Later that night, he returns to his dark, imposing apartment building. He quietly unlocks the door, the weight of the day's events heavy on his shoulders. Inside, his mother is at the dining table setting out a warm meal. Landon's wary expression softens as he calls out to her. "I'm back." Landon's mother immediately scolds him for coming home so late. She points out that they've been waiting to eat and that he doesn't even have his school bag. She continues her lecture, blaming his father for spoiling him, before ordering him to wash his hands. Overwhelmed with emotion, Landon quietly calls out to her. He walks up behind his mother and pulls her into a tight hug. Completely surprised by the sudden embrace, she lets out a confused, Landon's mother pulls back, her face a mask of pure panic. She asks what's wrong, her voice filled with concern as she wonders if he was bullied. She quickly tries to soothe him, telling him not to cry.
A little later, they sit down for the dinner she prepared. But Landon's strange behavior hasn't escaped her notice. She continues to probe, asking if he's feeling unwell or if the pressure from school is getting to him. Landon quietly dismisses her concerns, telling her not to worry and that he's doing fine. Landon makes a solemn promise to his mother that he'll listen to her from now on. She just laughs, playfully telling him she'd be happy if he'd just stop making her worry. She reassures him that they don't have grand expectations for him. All they want is for him to finish school and get a safe government job with his dad's help. The memory fades, and Landon recalls how his mother used to nag him like this when she was still alive. He remembers the feeling as something truly nice. The scene shifts to the present, where Landon sighs while looking out at the moonlit night. Lying awake in bed, he admits just how much he misses that life. He yearns for the days when the threat of a bullet to the head wasn't his constant reality. Landon recalls his mother's smiling face, reflecting on how it takes everything for ordinary people just to hold on to simple happiness. But that memory is quickly tainted by a darker one. He remembers kneeling in anguish before a cruel, smirking man who destroyed everything with ease. Back in the present, Landon's hand clenches into a tight fist as he looks at a framed photo of his family. He declares that with this second chance at life, he will change the world. Looking at the reflection of his younger, happier self with his mother, he vows to leave no regrets behind. The next morning, the scene opens on a large institutional building with a prominent clock tower. As Landon arrives at school the next morning, an elderly man rushes up to him. He enthusiastically praises Landon for a heroic act he performed the day before. Other students begin to recognize Landon, gossiping about the fight. The girls in the crowd blush, remarking on how cool and handsome he is. Another man, possibly a teacher, gives Landon an energetic thumbs up. He excitedly informs Landon that the principal plans to give him an award. Landon, looking weary and slightly flustered, is taken aback by all the attention. He can't believe that simply saving someone has caused such a huge stir. Landon walks into his classroom, realizing the news of his fight has spread here too. His classmates immediately surround him, recognizing him as the one who kicked down the door. They excitedly chatter about his heroic actions, comparing the scene to something straight out of a movie. One student enthusiastically praises Landon's insane moves from the day before. Just then, a blonde-haired student with glasses cuts through the crowd, staring Landon down with a hostile expression. He condescendingly offers to teach Landon how to fight. The other students are ecstatic, calling the intimidating blonde student Godfather. Class Rep Yang stabs a pen into his desk in a fit of jealous rage. He scoffs internally, annoyed that everyone is treating Landon like a hero for a simple fight. He mutters for Landon to quit showing off. Suddenly, a hand slams down hard on Landon's desk. Landon looks up from his work, his crimson eyes completely unfazed. He calmly asks what business Class Rep Yang has with him. One of Yang's cronies smugly announces that it's about yesterday's English homework. Class Rep Yang leans in, stating that Landon is the only one in the entire class who failed to turn it in. He ends the threat by saying Landon's name with pure contempt. Landon smirks, completely unfazed. He sarcastically asks if he's something special for getting a personal visit from the class rep. A nearby student looks on with admiration, calling Landon Godfather and Master. Suddenly, Class Rep Yang snatches the paper from Landon's desk and rips it in half. With a malicious grin, Yang holds up the tattered remains of the assignment. He declares that Landon's homework doesn't count. Looming over him, Class Rep Yang orders Landon to rewrite the whole thing right now. Landon's crimson eyes flare with anger as he glares up at the bully.
Landon sits at his desk, methodically tearing up a stack of English homework. The classmate is furious, yelling, "Yang Tianli, are you out of your mind?" He demands to know why he just destroyed Shenzi's homework. The class monitor holds a student down by the collar, having just ripped his homework to shreds. He smugly orders the student to rewrite it 10 times and hand it in before the end of the day. Another student with a buzz cut suddenly stands up and shouts at the bully for picking a fight. The class monitor turns on him, yelling at him to shut his mouth and calling him a monkey for interrupting. The buzz-cut student shrinks back in fear. Landon steps in, placing a hand on his friend's shoulder. He calmly states, "I'll write the homework." Then, his gaze hardens as he adds a condition directed at the bully, "But you need to apologize." Landon's eyes glow with unrestrained fury. The student before him pushes his glasses up, a condescending smirk on his face as he asks, "Oh, apologize for what?" In a swift motion, Landon slaps a book out of the air, sending it flying. "For your damn cheap attitude, of course," Landon retorts, his voice dripping with contempt. The student's face contorts, his expression shifting from shock to pure rage. Shadows fall across his face as he glares down, barely managing to utter, "You?" The class monitor screams, demanding respect as he swings a punch down toward Landon. From Landon's perspective, the attack comes crashing down. With lightning-fast reflexes, Landon sidesteps the blow, leaving an afterimage in his place. The class monitor is stunned, his attack hitting nothing but air. He grits his teeth, furious that Landon has dodged him once again. Same time, a girl walks through the classroom. Suddenly, class monitor throw another punch. "Let's see you dodge this punch." Her expression immediately turns to one of confusion. A bully barrels through the classroom, throwing a punch directly at the girl. Landon's eyes flash a dangerous crimson as he witnesses the unprovoked attack. In a blur of motion, he slams his foot down, moving to intercept the blow. A sharp projectile flies through the air, aimed directly at a girl in a school face. She cries out in alarm as it closes in. Suddenly, Landon appears, pull girl back to protect her. Blood splatters from the impact. Landon immediately asks the girl if she's okay. The girl, with a small cut on her face, tries to downplay it, saying it's not a big deal. She admits she was just grazed a little. Hearing this, Landon's expression darkens, his eyes glowing a menacing red. A furious aura surrounds him as he glares at the unseen attackers. He snarls, "You guys have gone too far." He follows up with a chilling threat. Hands that harm the innocent are better off crippled. With his crimson eyes glowing, Landon lunges at his attacker. He grabs the spiky-haired student's wrist with immense force. A sickening crack echoes as Landon shatters the boy's bones. The student screams in agony, clutching his now useless hand. Another student, enraged, screams at Landon to drop dead. He grabs a wooden stool, preparing to use it as a weapon. Landon unleashes a vicious backhand across the man's face. The man with glasses reels back, his expression a mask of pure shock and pain. Without a moment's hesitation, Landon lunges forward, grabbing him by the throat. With a cold fury burning in his crimson eyes, Landon smashes the man's head down with overwhelming force. Landon grabs a fellow student by the collar, his eyes simmering with rage. Suddenly, the vice principal storms in, furious at the commotion. He immediately blames Landon, and accusing him of habitually starting fights. A female student tries to intervene, explaining that Han Chong was the one who started it. But the vice principal cuts her off, yelling for everyone to be quiet. Han Chong smirks victoriously, adjusting his glasses, while Landon looks on with a grim expression. The vice principal singles out Landon, ordering him to the disciplinary office. Landon is called into an office, wherein the vice principal angrily questions why he confronted someone named Yang Tianli. Landon glares back, his crimson eyes smoldering, as he asks if he should just endure being picked on. The vice principal explains that Yang Tianli's father is a powerful official that even the principal is afraid of offending. He warns Landon that resisting will only lead to his own suffering. Trying to sound wise, he tells Landon that calm leads to clarity, and that sometimes one must simply endure. He dismisses Landon, telling him to go write a self-criticism and behave from now on.
As Landon leaves, the word endure echoes in his mind with clear disdain. Landon gazes at the sky, his crimson eyes filled with a weary resolve. He reflects on the situation, thinking, "I'm afraid the tree may crave calm, but the wind will not subside." Having dealt with the threat, he walks back towards his school. As Landon enters the classroom, a student spots him and excitedly shouts that he's back. The entire class immediately erupts into a massive cheer. They crowd around him, hailing him as a hero and celebrating his incredible victory. Landon looks aside. A female classmate approaches him, a grateful look on her face as she says, "Thank you, Landon." Landon replies humbly, "Ah, as long as you're okay." Watching from a nearby doorway, another student scowls with intense jealousy. His companion remarks, "Damn, he stole the spotlight again." Filled with rage, the jealous student slams his fist down hard on a desk. Monitor's companion furiously asks if they're just going to take the humiliation.
He pulls out his phone, suggesting they get friends to ambush their opponent after school. He declares that their enemy can't possibly take on 10 people at once. Monitor, with a calm and serious expression, simply says, "No need." He explains that he was too impulsive earlier. After calming down, he has realized that relying on brute force is the behavior of lower beings. His friend is left completely dumbfounded by this unexpected response. On a balcony, Tianli explains his philosophy, stating that the world operates on rules. From the floor below, Landon listens in, his crimson eyes focused. He knows that only those who can use the rules can truly dominate everything. As if to prove his point, Tianli makes a call to someone named Secretary Zhao. The man on the other end, Uncle Zhao, answers the phone. With a serious expression, Tianli tells him he has a question. A blonde student makes a serious phone call, his expression grim. In the background, Landon overhears the conversation, a knowing smirk on his face.
Inside the classroom, a student with a buzz cut squares up, laughing maniacally. He launches a flying kick straight at Landon, proudly asking for his master's opinion on the move. Landon catches the kick effortlessly with one hand, calmly critiquing the student's form. Suddenly, another student points towards the doorway, calling out to get someone's attention. Lin Si has arrived, and her presence immediately shifts the atmosphere. Landon's gaze snaps towards her, his expression turning serious. The campus idol, Lin Si, arrives at Landon's classroom, asking for him by name. Her presence immediately stuns the other students, who whisper in awe and jealousy. Landon himself is completely spaced out, caught off guard by her sudden appearance. His friend snaps him out of it, urging him to go talk to her. Landon nervously walks out to meet Lin Si in the hallway. She gets straight to the point, asking if he's free for the night. She then presents a business card, explaining that her father wants to thank him in person for a past event. The card reveals her father's powerful position as a commander in the Eastern Theater Command. Landon reads a note bearing the name Lin Zhenbong of the Eastern Theater Command. His eyes widen in shock as he realizes who this person is. He recalls that Lin Zhenbong was the youngest major general and a prominent leader among the young officers. However, due to a past incident, Lin Zhenbong withdrew from his high-ranking position. Back in the present, Landon hands a note to Lin Si, declaring that eliminating evil is his duty. He asks her to deliver a message to General Lin. As Lin Si turns to leave, Landon tells her to let the general know there's no need to worry. Landon watches her go, his expression filled with grim determination. A student eagerly questions Jiang Shan about his conversation with Lin Si. He bluntly tells him that Lin Si's dad wants him as a son-in-law. The student scoffs, accusing him of bragging.
Suddenly, another student interrupts them. He informs Landon that the principal wants to see him in his office immediately. A blonde-haired man with glasses smirks from a distance. The scene shifts to the principal's office, where the principal is yelling. He slams his hand on the desk, shouting at Jiang Shan. The principal warns him that if Han Chong dies, Landon will be a murderer. Landon smirks, questioning the diagnosis of a skull fracture. The principal furiously slams the freshly printed hospital report on his desk, shouting at Landon for questioning it. Reading the report, Landon realizes he's being framed. He thinks to himself, "I didn't even touch his head yesterday, it must be Yang Tianli's doing." As the principal screams for an answer, Landon's demeanor darkens. He menacingly suggests visiting the student, Han Chang, in the hospital himself. Landon looms over the principal's desk, his red eyes glowing with intensity. He wants to determine whether the injury was his mistake or the principal's oversight. Leaning in close, Landon delivers a chilling warning, advising the principal not to get involved. He plants a seed of doubt, asking how the principal can be so sure Yang Tianhui's father can cover this up. An enraged teacher points at the student, shouting in disbelief. He's stunned by the student's sharp retort. The student turns his back and storms out of the office, slamming the door behind him. His crimson eyes burn with cold determination. In the hallway, 2 police officers immediately apprehend him. They inform Landon that he is a suspect in an intentional injury case and must come with them. As he's being led away, Class President Yang watches with a smug expression. Yang taunts him, "Playing games with me? Are you sure you can afford it?" "Farewell, Landon," he says, confident in his victory. Landon stops and turns, a chilling smirk on his face. "Don't rush, Class President Yang," he warns.
The show is just beginning. Landon sits calmly in a police interrogation room. An officer slams a report on the table, yelling that someone named Han Chung has 3 broken ribs. He furiously demands Landon confess to attempting to kill a classmate. Unfazed, Landon tells the officer to check the transfer records on Han Chung's phone instead. The officer shouts that Landon is the one being interrogated. Landon's eyes glow a menacing red. He calmly states that he won't say anything else until his lawyer arrives. As the officer sputters in disbelief, Landon points out that since there's no arrest warrant, the surveillance must be off. Landon calmly dismantles the officer's interrogation, pointing out every single procedural error they've made. The 2 officers are stunned by his knowledge, whispering to each other about his mysterious background. Unfazed, Landon demands to see their superior, expecting someone who will at least follow the rules. A voice from the doorway mocks the very idea of rules, and the officers snap to attention. Police Chief Dong Li enters with a smug grin, making it clear that rules are irrelevant here. He ominously warns Landon that he's simply messed with the wrong person. In an interrogation room, a smirking officer slides a confession statement across the table. He pressures a young man, Landon, to sign it, offering a reduced sentence as an incentive. Landon remains silent, his arms crossed and his crimson-tinged eyes filled with contempt. Suddenly, Landon lets out a short, derisive laugh. A menacing red aura envelops him as a sinister grin spreads across his face. Landon begins to taunt the officer, accurately guessing he's just a deputy chief trying to curry favor with his superiors. The deputy chief's face contorts with shock and rage at being exposed. Unfazed, Landon continues his psychological attack, mocking the man's ambition. He warns the deputy chief that his corrupt climb will end in a spectacular fall. Furious, the officer slams his fist on the table, desperately trying to shut Landon up. The chief explodes in rage, grabbing Landon by his shirt. Despite the man's fury, Landon remains completely calm, a slight smirk on his face. Just as the chief threatens him, a subordinate rushes in with an urgent message. There's a call for the chief, and it's from the theater command headquarters. The chief's anger instantly turns to shock and disbelief. Landon, now sitting with his arms crossed, coolly tells the chief to take the call, promising he'll wait. Sweat pours down the chief's face as he panics. A dreadful realization begins to dawn on him. The call from the highest authority might be about the very kid he's threatening. In an interrogation room, Landon faces 2 officers with a defiant smirk. He responds to their questioning with a simple, challenging, "What?" His expression darkens into a menacing glare as he leans forward, turning their own interrogation back on them.
A heated phone call erupts as a man on the other end barks, "Release him immediately!" Gripping the receiver with authority, he adds firmly, "That's an order." The officer on duty looks stunned, stammering about proper procedures. But realizing resistance is futile, he curses under his breath and begrudgingly unlocks the door. Staff Officer Jiang Shan slams his phone shut in frustration. "I can't stand dealing with you bureaucrats, always hiding behind procedure," he growls. When an official tries to block his way, insisting he can't ignore the rules, Jiang Shan snaps. Drawing his pistol, he presses it to the man's forehead with a chilling grin. "This is my procedure." Inside the interrogation room, a calm voice calls out, "Ah-ya, Staff Officer He, look!" Landon sits wearily at the table, flanked by 2 officers. A man in a tan shirt waves dismissively, claiming nothing happened to him. Another official, however, demands to know why Landon was even detained, warning them of the consequences of touching someone tied to Colonel Lin's family. The officers backtrack, insisting it was all just a misunderstanding. Landon remarks that although he arrived late, he still made it on time. He recalls how leaving his commander's contact card with a classmate saved him from being framed. Later, with a smug smile, Landon realizes just how close he came to being set up. Jiang Shan confronts a sweating officer, forcing him to sign Landon's release papers. The officer remembers the gun incident and quickly complies, knowing he had crossed the wrong family. As they drive away, a subordinate questions Jiang Shan's reckless behavior at the station. He brushes it off, warning him to stay quiet. Turning to Landon, he introduces himself and thanks him for saving his commanding officer's daughter. Landon calmly replies that he only repaid a debt, since Uncle Lin once saved him. But he insists otherwise, extending his hand for a firm handshake. The handshake suddenly turns into a test of strength. He crushes down with power, only for Landon to see through the act instantly. A playful fight breaks out in the vehicle. Landon dodging blows, countering with unorthodox moves, even locking He in a chokehold. But instead of anger, he bursts into manic laughter, thrilled by Landon's skill. The scuffle ends abruptly when the driver warns of an approaching military patrol. They tense up, but the guard simply waves them through, sparing them the hassle of explaining. At last, they arrive at a quiet building. Inside waits Uncle Lin, who greets Landon warmly and confirms his identity, calling him Young Jiang. Pouring tea, Lin thanks him deeply for saving his daughter, Lin Si. Landon brushes it off with a smirk, calling it his duty as a citizen. But Lin grows serious, sliding a top-secret folder across the table. Inside are photos of young Tian Li and his father. Lin explains that Vice District Chief Yang has grown too arrogant, assuring Jiang that today's humiliation will soon be repaid. At that moment, Jiang recalls his previous life. He remembers when young Tian Li's father was arrested and how 6 million in bribes mysteriously vanished, only to be discovered years later in 2024 among the ruins of the Yang estate. Snapping back to the present, Jiang smirks darkly, clutching the file. "I wonder," he mutters, "if Vice Chief Yang's home were to be robbed. How would he react?"